Welcome to Dream Stories by Dasha, your space for sleep, calm, and gentle night stories. Here you will find everything for your best sleep. If you enjoy this channel, don't forget to subscribe and like this video so you don't lose this place of peace. Now, close your eyes and slowly let go. The house had not changed. It still stood at the end of the quiet street, just as it always had. The same small garden, the same narrow path leading to the front door, the same windows that seemed to watch the world without ever revealing anything inside. They arrived one by one. No one spoke much at first. There was no need. The reason they were there was already understood. Their grandmother had passed away 3 days ago, and now the house was theirs to sort through. Inside, everything felt smaller than it used to, or maybe it was just quieter. The ticking clock in the hallway sounded louder than before, filling the space where her voice once had been. "Where do we start?" Anna asked softly. Her brother looked around. "She kept everything," he said. "So, everywhere." There was a faint attempt at a smile, but it didn't last. They began in the living room. Old books, carefully folded blankets, drawers filled with things no one had touched in years. Receipts, letters, notes written in her familiar handwriting, small details of a life that had been steady and private. "She never threw anything away," Anna said. "No," he replied, "she didn't." It took hours before they moved to the bedroom. That room felt different. Not sad, not heavy, just preserved, as if nothing inside it had accepted that time had moved forward. Anna opened the wardrobe slowly. The scent of old fabric and something faintly floral filled the air. "She used to keep important things hidden," she said. "Not locked, just out of sight." Her brother nodded and walked toward the small wooden desk near the window. He pulled open the first drawer. Nothing unusual. Pens, paper, a few folded documents. The second drawer stuck slightly. He pulled harder. It opened with a soft sound. Inside, there was less. Just a few envelopes, and one placed separately. He paused. "Anna," he said quietly. She turned. "There's something here." He picked it up carefully. The envelope was older than the others, not worn, but untouched, as if it had been placed there and never moved again. There was a name written on the front. Neither of them recognized it. Anna stepped closer. "Who is that?" she asked. He shook his head slowly. "I don't know." They looked at each other for a moment, then back at the letter. It had never been opened, and it had never been sent. For a moment, neither of them touched the envelope again. It lay between them, light, ordinary, and somehow completely out of place. Anna was the first to speak. "Maybe it's nothing," she said. "Someone she knew, from a long time ago." Her brother didn't answer right away. He was looking at the handwriting. "It's hers," he said quietly. "But look at the name," Anna leaned closer. She read it again, slowly, carefully. "No," she said after a moment. "I've never heard it before." He turned the envelope slightly in the light. "There's no address," he added. She frowned. So she never meant to send it? Or she didn't know where? That didn't feel right. Their grandmother had always been precise, careful. The kind of person who didn't leave things unfinished without a reason. Anna reached for the envelope. "Should we open it?" she asked. He hesitated. It felt like something small, but not simple. Like crossing a line that hadn't been marked, but was still understood. "It's part of her things now," he said finally. "I guess we should know." She nodded. Carefully, she opened it. The paper inside was folded once. Nothing more. No photographs. No extra notes. Just a single page. She unfolded it slowly. For a second, she didn't read. She just looked at the first line. Then her expression changed. "What?" he asked. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she handed him the letter. "Read it." He took it. His eyes moved across the page, then stopped. And for the first time since they had entered the house, he looked genuinely confused. "This doesn't make sense," he said. Anna crossed her arms slightly, as if bracing herself. "What do you mean?" He read one line again, more carefully this time. "It's not just a letter," he said. "It sounds like she's writing to someone she knew very well." "That's not strange," Anna replied. "People have lives we don't always know about." "No," he said slowly. "That's not what I mean." He looked up at her. "It sounds like she was writing to someone who was here." Anna blinked. "Here? In this house?" The room felt quieter after that. She shook her head slightly. "That doesn't make sense. We would know." He didn't argue, but he didn't agree either. Instead, he looked back at the letter. "There's something else," he said. "What?" He turned the page slightly toward her and pointed at the bottom. "There's no date." Anna frowned again. "That's not unusual." "No," he said quietly, "but look closer." She leaned in, and then she saw it. There was no date, no address, no last name, just the first name. And one sentence at the end. A sentence that didn't feel like it belonged to a letter at all. Her voice dropped when she read it. "Don't come back if they're still living here." Silence filled the room. Neither of them spoke. Because suddenly the question was no longer just who the letter was for, but who else it might have been about. They didn't dose back to the living room. Not yet. The letter remained in Anna's hands, but neither of them read it again. It was enough to know what it said. The feeling it left behind was still too present, too unclear. Her brother walked slowly around the bedroom, looking at things more carefully now. Not as memories, as details. "Did she ever mention anyone living here before us?" he asked. Anna shook her head. No, it was always just her. At least, that's what we were told. He nodded but didn't seem convinced. His attention moved to the walls. Photographs. There were many of them, arranged neatly. Family moments, holidays, birthdays. The same faces repeated over the years. Familiar, consistent, safe. Anna stepped closer to one of them. This was taken here, she said quietly, in this room. He joined her. There they were, the two of them as children, their parents, their grandmother standing behind them, one hand resting lightly on Anna's shoulder. Nothing unusual until he looked closer. There's something off, he said. Anna frowned. What do you mean? He pointed slightly, not touching the glass. Look at the background. She leaned in. At first, she didn't see it. Then she did. There was space behind them, more than there should have been. The room looked deeper, like something had been there, or had been moved. That's just the angle, she said quickly, but her voice didn't sound certain. He didn't argue. Instead, he stepped away and moved toward the wardrobe. He opened it again, slower this time. Inside, everything looked normal. Clothes, neatly arranged, boxes at the bottom. He crouched and pulled one of them out. Dust lifted slightly into the air. Do you remember this? He asked. Anna looked over. No. He opened the box. Inside were older things, not from their childhood, not from the years they remembered clearly. Letters, documents, a few small objects wrapped in cloth, and photographs, different ones. Anna stepped closer. These aren't ours, she said. He picked one up carefully. It showed the house, but not as they knew it. The garden looked different. The fence was older. The windows had a slightly different shape. And there were people standing in front of it. He turned the photos slightly toward the light. Do you recognize anyone? He asked. Anna leaned in. She studied the faces one by one. Strangers. All of them. Until... Wait, she said suddenly. He looked at her. What? She pointed. This one. A man, standing slightly apart from the others. Not smiling. Not looking at the camera. Just there. I've seen him before, she said slowly. Where? She hesitated, then shook her head. I don't know, but I'm sure of it. Her brother looked back at the photo, then at the letter still in her hand. Is that the name? He asked quietly. Anna looked down at the envelope, then back at the face in the photograph. Silence stretched between them because for the first time, the letter no longer felt like something random. It felt connected. They didn't say anything for a while. The photograph stayed in his hand, the letter in hers. two pieces of something that clearly belonged together, even if they didn't yet understand how. "We need to check the rest of the house," he said finally. Anna nodded, not out of curiosity anymore, out of something closer to unease. They started with the hallway. At first, everything looked the same narrow space, the same worn floor, the same clock ticking steadily on the wall. But now they were looking differently, not at what was there, at what didn't quite fit. "Do you remember this cabinet?" he asked. Anna glanced at it. Yes, she kept old keys there. He opened it. Inside there were a few small hooks, most of them empty. But one held a single key, older than the others. He took it down. It was heavier than expected. "No label," he said. Anna frowned. She labeled everything. Exactly. That was the problem. They moved further down the hallway. There was a door at the end. They both knew it. They had always known it. And yet, they had never opened it. "Was that ever used?" Anna asked quietly. Her brother shook his head. "I don't think so. That wasn't entirely true." They had seen their grandmother go near it once or twice over the years, but never open it in front of them. The door looked ordinary. Same color, same handle, but something about it felt separate, like it didn't belong to the rest of the house in the same way. Anna stepped closer. Her hand hovered near the handle, then stopped. "This feels wrong," she said. He didn't disagree. Instead, he held up the key. Neither of them spoke, because they both understood. They tried the handle first. It didn't move. Locked, of course. He stepped forward and slowly inserted the key. It fit perfectly. For a second, neither of them moved. Then he turned it. The sound was quiet, but in the silence of the house, it felt louder than anything they had heard all day. The lock opened. Anna took a small breath. "Wait," she said suddenly. He looked at her. What if she didn't want this opened? The question stayed between them, heavy, real. But then he said something that settled it. She didn't throw the letter away. That was enough. He turned the handle and slowly the door opened. Inside, it wasn't dark, just dim. A small room, simple, barely used, but not empty. There was a chair, a small table, and on the table another envelope. They didn't step inside immediately. The door remained half open, as if the room itself wasn't inviting them in, but also not hiding anything anymore. Anna was the first to move, slowly, carefully. The floor inside didn't creak the way the rest of the house did. It felt less used, as if this space had been preserved separately from everything else. Her brother followed. The air was different here. Not cold, not stale, just still, like time had passed around the room, but not fully through it. They both looked at the table. The envelope was placed exactly in the center. Not hidden, not forgotten, left. Anna stepped closer. "This wasn't accidental," she said quietly. "No," he replied. "It wasn't." She picked it up. This one looked newer. The paper wasn't aged in the same way. The edges were sharper, the surface cleaner, but what mattered was the front. There was a name written on it. She froze. Her brother noticed immediately. "What is it?" She didn't answer. Instead, she slowly turned the envelope toward him. He read it, and for a moment, he didn't react. Then his expression changed. "That's not possible," he said. Anna nodded faintly. Because the name written there was his. Silence filled the room. Not confusion, not shock. Something heavier. Something that didn't have an immediate explanation. He took the envelope from her hands. "It's just a coincidence," he said quickly. "Same name. It happens." But his voice didn't sound certain. Anna didn't argue. She just watched him, because something about this didn't feel like coincidence at all. He turned the envelope over, sealed, untouched, just like the first one. His hand paused slightly. "You don't have to open it," she said. He looked at her. But that wasn't really an option anymore. Slowly, he broke the seal. The paper inside unfolded with a soft sound. He began to read. At first, his face didn't change. Then, his eyes stopped moving. Anna stepped closer. "What did it say?" she asked quietly. He didn't answer, not immediately. When he finally looked up at her, something had shifted. Not fear, something deeper. "It's from her," he said. "I know that," Anna replied. "What does it say?" He hesitated, then spoke. "It says..." He stopped again, as if saying it out loud would make it more real. "It says I shouldn't have come back to this house." The words settled heavily between them. Anna felt something tighten in her chest. "That doesn't make sense," she said. "We just got here." He shook his head slowly. "That's not what it means." Silence. Then he added, quieter now, "She wrote this, like she knew I would." He looked back down at the letter, as if hoping the words might change. They didn't. Anna stepped closer, her voice quieter now. "Read it," she said. He nodded slowly and began again, this time out loud. "If you are reading this, then you have come back to the house. I hoped you wouldn't. Not because you don't belong here, but because some things should remain where they were left." He stopped for a moment. The room felt smaller. "Keep going," Anna said. He continued, "You were never meant to remember everything. We agreed on that. It was the only way to make sure life could continue as it should." Anna frowned. Agreed, she repeated softly. He didn't respond. He was still reading. You asked me to keep this from you. You said that if the time ever came when you returned, I should not stop you, but I should warn you. His voice grew quieter. Because once you begin to remember, it will not stop where you want it to. Silence filled the space again. Anna shook her head slightly. This doesn't make any sense, she said. You never lived here before. We both know that. He didn't look at her. Not yet. Instead, he read the next line. There was someone else who lived in this house. Someone you knew better than anyone. You must not try to find him through the past. If you do, you will only find what we tried to leave behind. Anna felt a chill run through her. The man in the photograph, she said quietly. He finally looked up. Neither of them needed to confirm it. They both knew. He looked back at the page. There is one thing I could never change, he continued. The place where it happened. The room you have already opened. Anna's eyes moved slowly around the small space. The chair, the table, the stillness. This room? She whispered. He nodded faintly. His voice dropped as he read the final lines. If you choose to stay, the house will begin to show you what it remembers. Not what you remember. Not what you believe. Only what is still here. He swallowed slightly. And if that happens, you will understand why I asked you to forget. The letter ended there. No signature, no explanation, nothing else. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Anna asked the question they had both been avoiding. What did you forget? He didn't answer. Because somewhere deep inside, something already felt too familiar. They didn't leave the room right away. Neither of them said it out loud, but both felt the same thing. The space had changed after the letter was read. Not physically. The walls were the same. The furniture hadn't moved. But the silence inside the room was no longer neutral. It felt active. Anna was the first to step back toward the door. We should go, she said quietly. Her brother didn't argue. He folded the letter slowly and placed it back on the table exactly where it had been. As if putting it back might undo something. It didn't. They stepped out into the hallway. The moment they did, Anna stopped. Wait, she said. Something was different. The hallway looked the same at first glance. The same narrow shape. The same clock on the wall. But the sound, the ticking had changed. It was slower, uneven. Her brother noticed it too. That wasn't like that before, he said. Anna shook her head. No. They both stood still, listening. Tick, pause, tick, tick. A rhythm that didn't belong to the clock they remembered. Then, from somewhere deeper in the house, came another sound. Soft, barely there, like a chair being moved across the floor. They both turned at the same time. "That came from the living room," Anna whispered. Her brother didn't answer. He was already walking. Not fast, not slowly, just certain. Anna followed. Every step felt louder now, as if the house was listening in return. They reached the living room. The door was open. Nothing unusual at first. Then Anna saw it. "The chair," she said. It had been near the window before. Now it stood in the center of the room, facing them. Her brother stepped closer. "No one else is here," he said, almost to himself, but the words didn't sound convincing. Because something else had changed too. On the table beside the chair, there was something that hadn't been there before. A photograph. He picked it up slowly. Anna moved beside him. It was newer than the others, clear, sharp, and unmistakable. It showed the same room, the same chair, the same position, but someone was sitting in it, a man. The same man from the old photograph. Anna felt her breath catch. "That's him," she said. Her brother didn't respond immediately because there was something else, something that made the image harder to accept. He turned the photograph slightly, and then he saw it clearly. The man wasn't looking at the camera. He was looking toward where they were standing, as if he knew exactly where they would be. Anna's voice dropped to almost nothing. "Why does it feel like he's waiting?" Her brother placed the photograph back on the table, carefully, deliberately, but his eyes didn't leave it. "Because," he said slowly, "maybe he is." And somewhere behind them, from the direction of the closed room, came the sound of the door opening again. They didn't turn around immediately. The sound from the hallway was soft but unmistakable. The door they had just closed was open again. Anna felt it before she moved. Not fear, recognition. "We didn't leave it like that," she said quietly. Her brother nodded. "I know." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The house was no longer just a place. It was reacting, showing, moving things that were not supposed to move. And somehow, it felt intentional. Anna took a slow breath and turned. The hallway looked longer now, not physically, but in the way it held distance. At the far end, the door stood open, wider than before. The light inside the room hadn't changed, but it felt stronger now, as if it was no longer contained within the walls. Her brother stepped forward first. This time, there was no hesitation. Anna followed. As they crossed the hallway, the sound of the clock stopped completely. Not slowed, not changed. Stopped. The silence that replaced it was heavier than any sound. They reached the doorway. Inside, the room was no longer still. The chair had moved, not by much, but enough. It was no longer facing the table. It was turned slightly toward the door, toward them. Anna's voice trembled slightly. It wasn't like this. Her brother didn't answer. He stepped inside, and the moment he did, something shifted. Not in the room, in him. His expression changed instantly. Not confusion, not fear. Recognition. He took a step back, then another. "What is it?" Anna asked. He didn't look at her. His eyes were fixed on the chair. "I remember this," he said quietly. The words felt heavy, like something that had been buried too deep to reach until now. Anna's heart began to race. "Remember what?" He swallowed, then spoke slowly. "There was someone here." Silence. Anna shook her head instinctively. "That's impossible." But even as she said it, the room felt like it disagreed. He stepped closer to the chair, carefully, as if approaching something fragile. "I wasn't alone," he said. His voice was lower now, more certain. "I used to sit here." Anna felt a cold weight settle in her chest, and someone sat across from me. The air in the room tightened, as if it was waiting, holding something just out of reach. Her brother's hand moved slightly, almost unconsciously, toward the empty space in front of the chair. And then he stopped, because for a brief moment, he didn't see the room. He saw something else. The same chair, the same space, but not empty, occupied. A man sitting there, watching him, saying something he couldn't fully hear, but somehow understood. Her brother's breath caught, and the words slipped out before he could stop them. "He told me not to come back." Anna froze, because those words were not from the letter. The words hung in the air longer than they should have. "He told me not to come back." Anna stared at her brother, waiting for him to correct it, to explain it away, to say it was just a feeling, just imagination, just stress from being here. But he didn't. He was still looking at the chair, not like it was empty, like it was still occupied. "That doesn't make sense," Anna said quietly. "You were a child. You grew up somewhere else. We have photos, memories. Everything proves that." Her brother shook his head slowly. "Then why does it feel like I'm remembering something I was never supposed to keep?" The room seemed to react to that sentence. The air shifted slightly, not dramatically, but enough that both of them noticed. Anna looked around. The table, the photograph, the chair, and then something small on the floor near the wall. She stepped closer. It was a mark, faint, almost invisible, like something heavy had once stood there for a very long time. Her voice lowered. "Someone lived here," she said. Her brother nodded. "I think so." A pause. Then he added, and I think I knew him. Anna turned sharply. Who? He hesitated. Not because he didn't want to answer, but because the answer felt incomplete inside him. I can't see his name, he said slowly, but I can feel the shape of it. That didn't help. It made it worse. Anna picked up the photograph again, studying the man more closely. His face was still calm, still watching, but now she noticed something she hadn't before. Not his expression, the way he was positioned, not sitting like a guest, not like family, like someone who belonged there more than anyone else in the room. She looked at her brother. Why would you forget someone like that? She asked. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he closed his eyes, as if trying to reach something just beyond his thoughts. When he spoke again, his voice was quieter, because I think I was asked to. Silence. Anna frowned. Asked by who? He opened his eyes, and for the first time, he looked uncertain. That's the part I can't remember. A distant sound came from the house again. Not the clock, not the door. Something softer, like a chair shifting slightly. They both turned at the same time, but the chair in front of them hadn't moved. It was the sound from somewhere else, from deeper in the house. Anna swallowed. Tell me something, she said. He looked at her. If we really forgot someone, she paused. Why does it feel like he never left? The house did not answer, but the silence that followed felt like it already had. The silence after Anna's question felt different. Not empty, intentional, like the house was waiting for them to reach the point where certain things could no longer stay hidden. Her brother still stood near the chair, unmoving, as if any sudden motion might break something fragile inside his mind. I don't think we forgot him, he said quietly. Anna looked at him. Then what did we do? He hesitated, not because he didn't know, but because the answer didn't feel like something a person should say out loud. I think we were told to stop recognizing him, he said. Anna frowned. That's not the same thing. It is, he replied. If you stop recognizing someone long enough, eventually they become impossible to place anywhere in your life. He stepped closer to the table again. The photograph was still there, the man still watching, but now something else stood out, a detail neither of them had focused on before. Anna leaned in slightly. There's something behind him, she said. At first it looked like just the background of the room, but the longer she looked, the less certain it became. It wasn't just furniture. It was another presence, a shadow of movement that didn't fully resolve into shape. Her brother's voice dropped. He wasn't the only one here. Anna looked at him quickly. What do you mean? He struggled for a moment, as if pulling something from deep inside him. There were decisions, he said slowly, things I don't fully remember making, but I remember the reasons. Anna's expression tightened. What reasons? He finally looked at her. To keep the house from holding on to him, A pause, then, more carefully, because he didn't belong to just us. The words didn't clarify anything. They only made the room feel heavier. Anna turned back to the photograph. "And the letter?" she asked. Her brother nodded slowly. "That's what it was," he said. "A decision we agreed to leave behind." Anna shook her head. "That still doesn't explain who he is." Her brother didn't answer immediately. Instead, he walked toward the wall and placed his hand against it, as if listening. Then he spoke softly. "I think he's not one person." Anna froze. "What?" He turned back to her. "I think he's the reason we needed to forget." A long silence followed. Then Anna whispered, "Then why does he still feel like he's here?" At that exact moment, the phonograph on the table shifted slightly, not falling, not moving on its own, just changing. And for the first time, the man in the image was no longer looking at them from a distance. He was looking directly at the room they were standing in, as if the memory had finally stopped being a memory. The change in the photograph was subtle, but impossible to ignore. For a few seconds, neither of them moved. Anna's eyes stayed fixed on the table, as if looking away might make the image change again in a way she couldn't control. Her brother slowly stepped closer. "This isn't normal," Anna said quietly. "No," he replied, "it isn't." He picked up the phonograph again, holding it more carefully this time, as if it might react to pressure. But the image was still, and yet different. The man was still there, still sitting in the same position, but the feeling had shifted completely. Before, it felt like being observed from inside a memory. Now, it felt like being observed from somewhere closer. As if the boundary between the image and the room had become thinner, Anna stepped back slightly. "I don't like this," she said. Her brother didn't respond immediately. He was staring at the photograph with a strange expression. Not fear, not confusion. Recognition again, but deeper now, more certain. "I know where this was taken," he said quietly. Anna turned sharply. "You do?" He nodded slowly. "This room." She looked around instinctively. The walls, the chair, the table. "It's the same room," she said. "We already knew that." "No," he said. His voice was lower now. "It's not just the same room." A pause. "It's the same moment." Anna didn't understand. "Explain that." He swallowed slightly, as if the words were difficult to accept, even as he said them. "This isn't a picture of something that happened," he said. "It's something that keeps happening." The air in the room felt colder. Anna shook her head. "That doesn't make sense." But even as she said it, she noticed something else. The chair. It wasn't just facing them anymore. It felt like it was positioned for a conversation that had already started before they arrived. Her brother lowered the photograph slowly. "And I think," he continued, were part of it. Anna looked at him. "What are you saying?" He hesitated, then said it clearly. "I think we didn't just inherit this house." A pause. "I think we inherited what it remembers." Silence filled the room again, but this time it felt different. Not like something waiting, like something already decided. Anna took a slow breath. "So who is he?" she asked again. Her brother looked at the chair, then at the photograph, then finally at her, and for the first time, he answered without uncertainty. "He's the part of the house that never stopped existing." A faint sound came from somewhere deeper in the house. Not movement, not footsteps. Just the feeling of something turning its attention toward them fully. And in that moment, both of them understood the same thing without saying it. The letter was never meant to explain the past. It was meant to warn them about what the house would still show them. The house felt quieter than before, not because the sounds were gone, but because everything inside it had settled into something final, as if the building itself had stopped pretending it was just an ordinary place. Anna stood near the table, still watching the photograph. Her brother didn't move anymore. He was no longer searching for answers in the room. Something in him had already shifted toward understanding. Or acceptance. "I don't think it's a person," he said quietly. Anna looked at him. "What then?" He hesitated, then spoke slowly. The words hung in the air. Anna looked around the room again. The chair, the table, the faint impression of presence that never fully disappeared. "And the letter?" she asked. Her brother nodded toward it. "It wasn't meant to hide him," he said. "It was meant to contain what the house kept trying to bring back." A pause. "And we agreed to it." Anna frowned. "We agreed to forget someone?" He shook his head slightly. "Not someone. Something that kept becoming someone." Silence returned, but it wasn't empty. It was full of something unspoken finally being placed into words. Anna slowly sat down on the edge of the chair in the room, the same chair from the photograph. Nothing happened immediately. No reaction, no change, just stillness. Then, very softly, she said, "If we forget something long enough, does it disappear?" Her brother looked at her for a long moment, then answered, "No, it just stops needing us to remember it." A breeze passed through the house, though no window was open. The photograph on the table shifted slightly in the light, but this time it did not change. It simply looked like what it was, a moment that had already happened and would not happen again. Anna stood up slowly. "So what do we do now?" she asked. Her brother glanced around the room one last time, then toward the hallway. "Nothing," he said quietly. "We leave it as it is." A pause. "Some things don't need to be solved. They only need to be left where they finally stopped moving. They walked toward the door together, not rushing, not looking back too often. But just before leaving, Anna paused. She turned once more toward the room. The chair was still there, empty, but no longer waiting. And for the first time, it felt like the house was no longer trying to tell them anything, just keeping what it had always kept, quietly and finally at rest.